G'day, I'm Tim from Steamrail Victoria. This locomotive behind me is a K-class locomotive, K190. This was a very popular Victorian Railways locomotive back in the between the 20s to very late 40s. This locomotive was actually built in 1946, and during 2015 we would much like to give this locomotive a complete repaint, including maybe some steel replacing and things wherever rust is. So what we were hoping to get out of this short video would possibly get some funds to paint this locomotive. We're looking about, to do the whole job would be about a $10,000 task. So it's certainly not a cheap task, and that's with voluntary labour as well. So we very much appreciate possibly a few donations.
Tim, is this a freight locomotive?
Yeah, it sure is. It was built as a branch line freight locomotive, so yeah.
And what can you tell me about any of these bits? What does this do?
That's your air side of the compressor, and that's its muffler.
Yeah.
It's like a strainer.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's only air goes near that side of things.
Right.
It's what's called a well shaft locomotive, so your valve gear is actually on the outside of the frames.
Ah.
Yes, so it's just two main bores and your valve liners. This locomotive was actually built in this very workshop, Newport workshops, back in 1946.
Right.
Yeah.
You mentioned earlier on it needed painting. How do you plan it? Is it going to be re-enamelled or what are you going to do? Well,
at the moment we're going through the process of what paint is going on it, but certainly what we can say right now is this barrel section, the sheet metal around the barrel of the boiler has had a repaint due to it actually being changed. It's brand new sheet metal, which costs us a pretty penny.
I can imagine, yeah, the fabrication.
The actual problem is the back half of the locomotive, so from the firebox back to the end of the tender, has its original old paint job from 2000.
Right.
And it's very much in need of a recoat. So we just need to do that.
Because obviously a paintwork on a steam engine is as important as the paintwork on your car. It's going to protect it, it's going to keep it going.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, obviously it's in a bit of sad state. Some places you can see the corrosion is getting the worst of it because of the heat, the water,
absolutely.
The weather we're in and everything, the heat.
Yeah. Well, look, obviously with the size of the locomotive or the paint area, and if we wish to get, some very good quality paint, which of course is what you want to do, so it lasts another, say, 20 years. Look, we're really probably going to be looking at around $10,000, because when you think about it, you've got all your sandpaper, your tool, like your sanders, certainly your undercoats and bogs and all sorts of different things. And some of the parts where we haven't replaced the sheet metal will need rust repair, but only minor. So we're really probably looking around $10,000.
Just as a matter of fact, there's another K-class. A small donation to these locomotives are going to help tremendously to keep them mainline. Steam engines are an important part of our culture, our history, and also preserving them for the future to educate our children. Let's take a look down this end of the locomotive. I noticed there's you've got some wood there as well. Is that typical? Yeah,
absolutely, yeah. The older locomotives had your wooden frames and your wooden doors. Where the newer locomotives that were from Glasgow in 1951, it's all steel.
Right.
So, yeah, but these particular locomotives had wood over the wooden window frames and doors.
Yeah, we were looking at the R-Class next door earlier on. Those locomotives were brought from Glasgow, and they replaced these locomotives, which were essentially freight locomotives, which were used on the main line. Now, sadly, the diesels gave the steam the boot, and that's what led to the demise of steam in Australia. Over the past couple of years, we've seen the revival of steam in Australia, and hopefully, it will continue growing. Let's come round. Let's have a look down along the loco. There we have the lovely plate, with nice on my bedroom wall, but I have to leave it here.
This tender holds 5,000 gallons.
5,000. On a typical journey, how far would that get you?
That will get you to about Geelong, which is about 60 miles.
The infrastructure down to Geelong and around to Ballarat, how is that suited for the steam engines? Is most of that gone?
Tonight, on our journey to Ballarat via Geelong, we will be stopping at a place called Jerringhap, where we'll fill both locomotives up with water, because they'll be very close to being empty by then. And then, of course, we'll get all the way through to Ballarat on that water, and from here to Ballarat on the same coal. Yeah.
What sort of climbs along the track? What's the track gradient like? Where would a locomotive like this express its full potential and its full beauty?
Well, in actual fact, it's very flat from here to Geelong.
Yeah.
Like this actual particular locomotive can cart 400 tonnes to Geelong.
Yeah.
Because the grades are so flat. The only time we'll be doing a bit of work tonight, so to speak, will be up Warren Heat Bank, just before Ballarat Station.
Let's come and have a look around the back of the locomotive. Here, let's have a look at the tender. Yet again, we have dual cut rings. And what's happened here, mice?
Yeah, no, a bit stronger than mice. An oxy torch, actually, in fact, because in the 1930s, when the steel carriages were being introduced, they had a major problem with what's called buffer lock, where the concertinas of the steel cars would actually lock behind the buffers and cause derailments. So the Victorian Railways just cut a nick out of all their steam locomotives' buffers.
Doesn't know any. He does. The man's a genius.
So that. So the Victorian Railways, just got their old oxy torches out and just cut a nick in all the steam locomotives. To prevent this from happening, but it wasn't as successful as they thought. Where you may have noticed on the R-Class locomotive 707 in the previous video, that's rear buffers on the tender were actually taking off.
I did notice, I did question that, and obviously on the trailing coach as well, they've been removed to stop buffer lock.
Yes, so where these little locomotives, we tend to, as Steamrail, just put them on wooden car services, where you don't need to remove them.
Tim, let's have a look around here. I noticed some fresh paint. Let's have a look. Are these new wheel sets, have they been turned?
Yeah, they've been what's called turned. So this locomotive in November 2014, we declared it needing a bogie overhaul. So where we pulled the tender off its bogies, and then we stripped the bogies, pulled the wheels out, the axle boxes, all your spring gear, pulled all that out, gave it a thorough inspection and repaired as necessary, and of course sent the wheels off to an outsiders to get reprofiled. Because the wheels were in need of a reprofile. And then we reassembled, and a team of us got our black paint out and some heavy duty sandpaper.
And got to work.
Got into them.
Elbow grease, and this is what, plenty of it.
One of the poor buggers that did it, he was absolutely black from head to toe. After a day's work on preparing these bogies for a paint job.
So let's come down here and have a look. Right, can you tell me what some of these, what's this for?
Okay, so that's part of your brake system. That's your reserve tank. So that fills up with air. And in front of this tank here, you've got what's called your triple valve, and your dead loco valve. So it's all to do with the brakes, which is a very complicated
we won't ask too much. Just
it's
just
a lot of people take years to learn it all. But so it's part of the locomotive's brake system.
Here we are up in the cab. Tim's just going to run through some of the controls. Slightly different layout from the 707, as you can see. Tim,
Yeah, okay, so alright, I'll start with the fireman's side of the job.
Yeah.
So right here we have what's called a lifting injector. So what that does is it basically puts water into the boiler using the boiler's steam to pick the water up from the tender. Again, quite a complicated bit of technology here.
Yeah.
And it's got one on the driver's side. You always have two of everything to do with water in this on boilers for safety reasons.
Yeah, of course.
These items here are your water gauge glasses. As you can see, the water's reading just here.
Yeah, she's quarter full at the moment.
Yep, so again, because it's to do with water, there is two of them.
Yeah.
This is your blower. I tell people it's an artificial draft. People that are inexperienced ask, what's a blower? It's an artificial draft, so that way while you're stationary, rather than having the smoke and heat come out into the cab onto the crew, we have this on so it sends it through to the funnel.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then we've got steam gauge up there. Yep. Which reads, you can see the marker on this is just slightly lower. It's looking like 175 pounds per square inch. The gauge does go up to 300, but just note it's below the 200 mark.
Yep, and then so we got our turbo generator valve, so that powers the lights.
Yeah.
We got our compressor, which we were looking at earlier on. So that operates to give the locomotive compressed air for its brake system. Yeah. Rather than over in the UK, they use vacuum brakes.
Yeah.
Alright, so over to the driver's side.
If I swap over.
Yep, so these are your two brakes. This is what we call our independent brake. So that just controls the locomotive. And then this is what we call our train brake, which controls the carriages or whatever vehicles are behind the locomotive.
Yeah.
Then this wheel here is our reverser, so that directs the loco into what direction it's going.
Yeah.
This is our regulator. In car terms, it's an accelerator.
Yeah.
So obviously to lift up, that would be to apply steam to the cylinders.
Yeah.
And then of course, every man's favourite job, the whistle.
Oh, everyone loves the whistle.
Yeah, so rather than a chord action like most locomotives.
An English prairie tank or something like that.
Yeah,
there's just a solid bar. Actually, that's a lot easier.
Yes, yeah.
And do you have two different whistles for...
No, we just have the one,
a single whistle.
But we have a lever on the fireman's side, so if the fireman feels necessary to blow the whistle at, say, level crossings, he can do so.
Okay. Let's have a look at the coal again.
Yep.
And yet again, good old Australian coal. Black is the earth, the proper stuff, which is what these things like. Just a quick look over the top of the coal in the tender. There's the coal rakes. We'll just have a little look around the yard where the locomotive is sat. This is a Steamrail shed. Let's just take a walk around the shed and go and see what we've got. Just past K190. And in front of us we got R711. Just down there in blue. Gorgeous. Look at that. And that's Spirit of Bendigo, R711. We've got various bits of steam engines lying around here. And then we've got R761, the famous R761. I think that's the flagship of Steamrail. And then we've got various sets of bogies and spare parts. And there is a J class, J541, which is under restoration. And there is 986, which is also under restoration. These things need to be looked after. They're historical. They're an important part of Australian culture and history. To lose them would be an absolute shame. They're bringing so much pleasure to young children and adults alike. Right. This is my donation to K190, and it's $150, in cash. You can't spend it because it's going on YouTube. If I see any beer receipts anywhere.
Well, thank you very much.
No, you're welcome. Thank you very much for inviting me to come and see your wonderful engines.
No, absolutely.
If anyone else wants to make some donations, just go to Steamrail. You'll find it on the website. Click the button, make a donation, and let's keep these beautiful machines running. Thank you very much, everybody, and goodbye.
See you later.
Sweet.